With over 30 years of concerts under their belts, Oasis have played plenty of songs from their studio albums live, but many do still go unplayed to this day. So let's talk about all of them. As long as it's not a B-side that isn't on the Masterplan or a standalone single. That'll be its own video in the future since there's so many of them. Let's get started. Every song from Definitely Maybe has been played live at some point, which is expected since it's the band's first album, but certain songs, mainly Up in the Sky and Digsy's Dinner, were only played live during the band's earliest days, which is understandable since they likely didn't have a ton of material to work with in 1994. It seems that when Alan White became Oasis' new drummer in April 1995, Noel either never bothered to teach Alan how to play these songs, or they just never bothered to play them live again. Which is fair. It might have been difficult to fit songs like Up in the Sky on the set list. But even while Tony McCarroll was still their drummer, Definitely Maybe got a lot of playtime. In fact, Definitely Maybe remains Oasis' most played album live to this day. Even after Alan White joined and certain songs were retired, others eventually came back later on. Mainly Shaker Maker, which was abandoned after 1997, returned as a setlist staple during the Stunningly Sugar Giants tour but wasn't played after 2001. Married with Children, originally retired in 1995 but returned a handful of times in 2002 and 2003 but hasn't been seen since. Columbia, initially gone after 1996, returned as a setlist staple during Heathen Chemistry tour, but was retired after Glastonbury in 2004. Bring It On Down, live staple in the early days before being retired in 1996, until eventually returning near the end of the Heathen Chemistry tour and eventually becoming a live staple once again during the Don't Believe the Truth tour, but it disappeared after 2006, but was thankfully brought back for the band's reunion tour. And Slide Away, played a lot between 1994 and 1996, retired after a handful of appearances in 1998, played relatively consistently during 2001, and then came back as a setlist staple in 2008, and of course coming back for the reunion as well. The rest of Definitely Maybe has seen steady live representation since, with 6 songs from the album returning for the band's 2025 reunion tour. The album's most played song, and the most played Oasis song to date, is Cigarettes and Alcohol, which has been played live 694 times, being a staple in every single tour the band has ever done. So that's cool. Every song from What's the Story Morning Glory has been played live at some point, all except Hey Now. Yeah, pretty funny how the track many consider to be the weakest from the album is the only one with absolutely no light representation to speak of. Even She's Electric got some live appearances, even if it only appeared during the Heathen Chemistry tour and had Noel on vocals for whatever reason. But aside from Hey Now, every song from Morning Glory has been played, some of which have become setlist staples for the rest of time, mainly Roll With It, Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, Morning Glory, and Champagne Supernova. A couple of songs from the album have been retired and brought back occasionally. Mainly Some Might Say, originally a live staple during the Morning Glory and Be Here Now tours, but was abandoned after 1998 until becoming a live staple once again in 2002, and a song on the reunion set list. Cast No Shadow, same story except without Be Here Now or Heathen Chemistry. After 1996 it was only played 4 more times, twice in 1997, once in 1998, and once in 2002. Thankfully it was included as part of the reunion. Hello, once again the same as Some Might Say, except it wasn't played at all between 1996 and 2002, and once again returned during the reunion, being used as the opener. Isn't that neat? She's Electric. As mentioned before, this song was completely absent until suddenly being played a bunch during 2001 and 2002, but it disappeared afterwards, never to be seen again. Be Here Now remains the least played classic Oasis album by quite a wide margin. But as of now, every song except All Around the World Reprise and Hope I Think I Know have been played live at some point. Weirdly, I never gave the latter a go. I think that song would have been awesome live. Quite a lot of Be Here Now was only played during the album's dedicated tour between 1997 and 1998 or so. In fact, quite a few songs, mainly All Around the World and Magic Pie, were only played in 1997 and were never seen again. Or, you could be the weird one, My Big Mouth, and be barely played during your own tour, and then suddenly get a ton of plays during the band's last ever concert tour before imploding. Because that makes perfect sense. The least played song from Be Here Now is The Girl in the Dirty Shirt, which has only ever been played a single time, December 5th, 1997 at Point Theatre in Dublin, Ireland. It has never been seen again afterwards. Good riddance, I'd say. The only songs from Be Here Now that had any sort of live representation after 1998 were Stand By Me and You Know What I Mean, which makes sense as those two were the biggest singles from the album. Even then, both of them disappeared after 2001 and 2002 respectively. As mentioned before, My Big Mouth suddenly became a live staple at the beginning in 2008 until the band split in 2009, to which it has never been seen since, as the latter two returned as the only Be Here Now songs in the band's reunion set list. Despite being just a B-side compilation, the Masterplan is actually Oasis' third most played album live, possibly thanks to the title track and Oasis, which were live staples for many years, mainly the latter. But despite it having over 1200 plays in total, quite a lot of the Masterplan hasn't been seen live in decades. All but 3 songs on the album have had play counts in the double digits, with 2 of them being in the single digits. To this day, every song except Going Nowhere has been performed. But I guess Going Nowhere technically counts since Noel did it with the High Flying Birds a lot recently, which can also apply to a song we'll get to later, so I'm counting it. Every Masterplan song has been played live at least once. Aside from Oasis and the title track, a handful of tracks were played a lot over the years as well. Fade Away, Talk Tonight, and Half the World Away specifically, though quite a few of them disappeared over the years before being returned randomly. Thankfully, all 5 songs mentioned were played during the band's reunion tour. It seems like unlike most bands, who hardly, if ever, even acknowledge their B-sides even exist, Oasis seem to treat most of their greatest B-sides like their A-sides. More about that in a future video. Out of Oasis' entire catalogue, Standing on a Shoulder of Giants remains the lowest played album of theirs to date, with absolutely nothing on it appearing after 2002. Not counting Fucking in the Bushes, which has been used as the tape intro song for the band's live shows since 2000. Go Let It Out and Gas Panic are the only songs from the album that had any real strong live representation after 2001, and both of them disappeared after 2002. Damn, I guess Noel wasn't really concerned with playing this album much, further proven by the fact that 3 songs from the album have never been played live, by Oasis at least. As Roll It Over, the closer of the album, while never played by Oasis, was played by Liam Gallagher during his live sets in 2022 or so, giving it the same amount of live appearances as most of the rest of the album. But the same can't be said for Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, which to this day has not been played live by any Oasis member, and likely never will. Fucking in the Bushes technically counts, since it's been used as the walk-on song for Oasis' live shows to start with for over 25 years, but it's never actually been played by the band live, so I'd still say it has yet to be played. Aside from 2 songs never played ever, quite a lot of the album was played very rarely. Little James was only played once, I Can See a Liar was played 6 times, and both Sunday Morning Call and Where Did It All Go Wrong were played 27 and 29 times respectively. Quite sad this album never got the same amount of live representation as, say, Definitely Maybe, or even Be Here Now at least. Not a single song from the album appeared in the band's reunion set either, not counting Fucking in the Bushes being played over tape at the start. Heathen Chemistry is an oddity, as it's the only Oasis album I can think of that only really had 1 song played consistently outside its own tour, that being Songbird. Songbird was the only song from Heathen Chemistry to be played after 2005, as it would continue to appear in the band's live shows until 2009, with other songs like Little by Little or Stop Crying Your Heart Out retired after 2004 to 2005 or so. Most of the songs from the album were never played live after the end of the Heathen Chemistry tour, mainly The Hindu Times, Force of Nature, Hung in a Bad Place, Born on a Different Cloud, and Better Man, all of which completely vanished after 2003. A quick peep, probably all in the mind, She Is Love and The Cage have never been played live ever, which is understandable since 2 of those songs are instrumentals. Oh yeah, Little by Little became the only 2000s Oasis song in the band's reunion set list, so that's neat. Don't Believe the Truth is in a similar boat to Heathen Chemistry, as while there was more than just 1 song getting played after the end of the tour, Lila, The Importance of Being Idle, and The Meaning of Soul remained live staples even after the end of the tour, being retired in mid-2009 or so, with Lila being the only one that survived until the band's last live shows. Nothing from it came back for the band's reunion, and every song from the album has been played live at least once. That's it. Oasis' final album actually did have some good live representation. Rather than playing a few songs once or twice and playing others more, all 6 songs Oasis decided to play from Doors were played consistently. Oasis didn't randomly play a song once or twice. They chose the songs they wanted to play and played them all the time. Unfortunately, out of Dig Out Your Soul's 11 songs, 5 of them have never been played, for better or worse. Bag It Up, The Turning, Get Off Your High Horse Lady, The Nature of Reality, and Soldier On were never played, and likely never will, since nothing from this album has been seen on the stage since 2009, except for Liam playing I'm Out of Time a few times on his solo tour around 2018. Aside from that, Waiting for the Rapture, The Shock of the Lightning, I'm Out of Time, Fallen Down, To Be Brother's Life, and Ain't Got Nothing have all been played live a rather big amount of times, with the most played and least played songs being only 27 plays apart. I do really wish Bag It Up and The Turning were played. I love those songs, they would go so hard live. Stick around, as I might make a part 2 of this video eventually detailing how many of Oasis' B-sides and other rare tracks have been played before. So stay tuned for that if I ever make it, and have a good night, I guess.